things are good here. We're at the end of the year. It's been an interesting year. In some ways challenging. I'm seeing a shift in priorities. I predicted it back in the summer, and I hate being right. But that is so many of my clients, which are enterprise level clients here in Silicon Valley. I do a lot of new hire training for Sales Navigator, LinkedIn, social selling. So many of my clients have hiring freezes now that has been a challenge now. A lot of them have cut back on events and activities and travel, because I knew that when 2022 started, it was such an urge to get back, but the accountants were going to catch up in the fourth quarter and say, look, our revenue has not followed the increase in expenses. Versus 2020, it was the opposite. I don't know about all of you, but so many of my clients talked to me about the fact that revenue went down and profitability went up, right? Because they didn't have travel, they didn't have events, they had all of these expenses that cut out, and yet revenue only dipped. But 2022, all the expenses went back up and revenue did not follow. And so I knew by this quarter, we'd start to see a strong pullback from a lot of organizations.
Yeah. I've heard people call it sort of a rationalization of the spending, right? And the thing is, the revenue wasn't there, but we thought it was. So we kind of got ahead of it. And now it's like, no, it's not there. And we don't know why yet. But the fact is, we just can't keep spending ahead of it and hope for the best. We'll figure this out as we go along. But I've certainly seen that in some other, talking to some other people in the tech side, right? That it's just not caught up yet. And I just think part of it's just uncertainty.
Yeah. And so it's made spending cautious. And so everybody's become cautious now. And which I think come 2023, I'll see what happened with us in 2020 and 2021. There was this online thing, this social selling concept. It really works. And we've had some who said they've stopped hiring any type of, this is a terrible, but senior salespeople. Because they've discovered that a senior salesperson who's got a cost associated and a certain skill set can be outsold by 10 junior salespeople who are just cranking it out online, understanding how to live in the digital first world. And so I've had a couple of customers talk about that. So we do a lot of new hire training when I say new hire, it's not just new hire. These kids are straight out of the university. So many of them are not even my kids' age. And so I'm seeing a shift there as well, that hey, I can get a bank of kids, teach them the subject matter expertise, and them having them reach out to all of these prospects with the social tools that they have.
Yeah. Now, of course, my data set's much smaller than yours, but I've seen some of that same kind of thing where the older guys that are, have been really good face to face have not figured out how to make the pivot, right? And you can still get them connected to clients, but they can only do that. They can only figure out how to do it face to face. They can't, the wide end of the funnel, the social side of this, it's a thing they just haven't figured out how to warm up to.
And not to dominate, but I was doing a series of CEO presentations last week, and I did 3 of them in the Texas area. And it was in person, so that was unique. But I went around the room and I bring up everybody's LinkedIn profiles to let them see how they're presenting themselves to the public as a representative of their company. One of them, he had no picture, no banner, no background, 6 followers, no connections. He'd never connected with anybody, had 6 followers, and was pretty convinced that LinkedIn was just a waste of time for him as a CEO and a leader. And I found that utterly shocking. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That you could believe that you could not have a presence in today's world and still get away with it. Anyway.
And not just from a sales perspective, right? Maybe that's what he's thinking. Oh, I'm not a sales guy. Well, you're the chief sales guy, really, if you think about it, right? And it's like from purely from a branding perspective alone, you would think that they would be on top of that.
Absolutely. But it was just shocking that now, at the end of my 90 minutes presentation, he's like, oh man, I was so wrong. I need to get this fixed so fast. So I appreciated his willingness to adapt, but the fact that he still had not stepped into that self-awareness was still shocking.
There's Richard out there. He's the John the Baptist of LinkedIn, kind of getting people, getting them baptized, getting them in. That's awesome.